My name's Ethan Cole, and if you'd asked me a year ago what love felt like, I probably would have said something stupid like complicated. But love isn't complicated. People are. Especially me. I moved to Chicago 2 years ago, chasing a job and running from memories. I worked as an auto mechanic at a small garage off North Avenue, the kind of place where time feels slower, even when cars come and go all day. The owner, Rick, was an old friend of my dad's. When I told him I needed a new start, he didn't ask questions. Just handed me a wrench and said, "Work keeps the ghosts quiet." He wasn't wrong. Then one Monday morning, the door chimed and in walked her. She wore a gray hoodie, her hair tied up carelessly, face a little flushed from the cold. I noticed her eyes first, green, sharp, curious. She looked around like she didn't trust the place, or maybe didn't trust herself for being there. "Hey," I said, wiping grease off my hands. "Need help?" "Yeah," she sighed. "My Jeep's making this weird noise. Kind of a screech? Or maybe a growl? I don't know. It's embarrassing." I grinned. Cars don't get embarrassed. People do. That made her smile, just a little, but enough to hit something inside me I didn't know still worked. Her name was Haley Grant. She was 26, worked as a freelance photographer, and lived 3 blocks down from the garage. Over the next hour, while I checked her car, we talked about everything from the weather to why Chicago pizza was better than New York's. When I handed her the estimate, she said, "You don't talk like a mechanic. Is that good or bad?" She tilted her head. "I'll decide next time." And she did come back. Haley showed up 2 days later with coffee, 1 black, 1 caramel latte. "I wasn't sure how you take it," she said, "so I guessed." "Black's perfect," I said. "How'd you know?" "I didn't," she smiled. "Lucky guess." From then on, it became a thing. Every few days she'd stop by. Just to check on the Jeep. Even though it was fine. Sometimes we'd talk for 5 minutes, sometimes an hour. She told me about her dad, who'd passed away when she was 17, and how photography was her way of keeping the world still for a moment, the way he used to tell her to pause and notice the small stuff. I told her about my small hometown in Ohio, how I left after a breakup that turned me into a version of myself I didn't like. How I came to Chicago just to disappear into work. "You don't seem like someone who wants to disappear," she said once. "Maybe I'm just waiting for a reason not to." She looked at me, really looked, and I swear I felt her see every scar I'd tried to hide. It was a Saturday in late November when everything changed. Haley asked if I wanted to tag along on one of her shoots, an outdoor portrait session near the lakefront. I said yes. The wind was sharp, the sky restless, but we laughed through it, sharing a single thermos of coffee. Afterward, as we packed up, it started to rain, hard. We ran toward her Jeep, drenched and breathless, her camera clutched under her jacket. When we got in, she was laughing uncontrollably. "You look like a wet cat," she teased. "Yeah? You look like a raccoon." Her laughter stopped. Then she leaned closer. "You gonna sit there or?" I kissed her. Right there, in the middle of a thunderstorm, with the city blurred through the windows and her hand tangled in my soaked shirt. It wasn't planned. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. That night, we didn't say what it meant. We didn't have to. For weeks, everything felt easy. We had dinners, long drives, movie nights on her couch. Haley took photos of everything, my hands, the skyline, even the broken clock at the shop. She said, "Imperfection's beautiful. It tells a story." But the story got complicated when her ex called. His name was Adam, a journalist, older, charming in a too sure of himself kind of way. He wanted her back. She told me it was over long ago, but something in her voice carried a tremor she didn't notice. I pretended not to care, but I did. More than I wanted to. The next few weeks were strange. She became distant, distracted. I started working late, hoping maybe if I didn't think about her, she'd miss me. But love doesn't work like that. One night, I found her waiting outside the shop. It was snowing lightly, her hair dotted with flakes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I get scared when things feel real. Haley, no, listen. She cut me off. You make me feel like home, Ethan. And that terrifies me. I stepped closer, took her hands. Then stay scared. Just don't run. She nodded, but her eyes said she already was. She left for a photography job in Oregon 2 weeks later. Said it was temporary. A few months at most. She promised to call, to write. And she did, at first. Texts, photos, video calls that lasted till 2 a.m. Then the calls slowed. The messages stopped being long. The distance wasn't just miles anymore. It was silence that I told myself she was busy. I told myself it didn't hurt. But every morning, I checked my phone anyway. Christmas came. No word. I sent one last message. Hope you're okay. I miss you. No reply. By February, I stopped expecting anything. I buried myself in work again. Rick joked that I was trying to fix every car in Chicago. Maybe I was trying to fix myself. Then one evening, I found a small envelope in the shop's mailbox. No return address. Inside was a photo of me, working at the garage, sunlight cutting through the window. On the back, in her handwriting, I never stopped seeing you. I didn't know what it meant. But I knew what I had to do. 2 days later, I packed my truck and drove 18 hours straight, snow, coffee, radio static. I didn't even have her exact address, just the name of the studio she'd been working with. When I found her in Portland, she looked stunned. Then she laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. You drove across the country? Yeah, I said. Guess I ran out of excuses not to. She didn't say anything for a while. Then quietly, I didn't answer because I thought you deserved someone who knew what they wanted. And now? Now I know I want you. She stepped closer, and I felt that same electricity from the first kiss. The world outside didn't matter, not the rain, not the noise, not the miles I'd crossed. Just her. We drove back to Chicago a week later, taking our time. She photographed everything: diners, sunsets, our reflections in motel windows. Somewhere in Kansas, she asked. Why me, Ethan? Because you made me feel again, I said. Because you're the one place I don't want to escape from. When we finally reached the city, Rick had hung a small sign outside the shop. Haley's Garage, photography free with tune-up. She laughed till she cried. A year later, Haley and I moved into a small apartment above the garage. She turned one room into a studio. I fixed cars downstairs. On weekends, we'd drive to the lakefront, her camera on the dashboard, her hand always finding mine. Life didn't turn perfect overnight. We argued, we made up, we learned. But every time I looked at her, I remembered the guy I used to be, and how she found him in the noise. Sometimes, late at night, she'd whisper, Do you think we were meant to meet? And I'd say, No. I think we just refused to miss each other. Because love, I realized, isn't about fate. It's about choosing, every day, every storm, every silence, to stay. Last week, she showed me her latest photo series. Where the Heart Comes Back. It's all moments of us: the garage, the road trip, the first storm. Under one photo, the one where I'm fixing her Jeep, she wrote, Sometimes, love isn't about finding someone new. It's about finding your way back, to where your heart already waited. I looked at her, smiling. Guess the Jeep really did bring you back. She kissed me softly and whispered, Yeah. I think it was always supposed to break.
It happened in December. We were supposed to go to her friend's holiday party. I'd already put on the hideous green sweater I bought, just to make her laugh. But half an hour before we had to leave, she was pacing her apartment, muttering under her breath, checking her phone like she was waiting for bad news. Lily, I said, talk to me. I'm Fina. You're not, she snapped. Not in a loud, dramatic way, in a quiet, exhausted way, like she'd been carrying a weight too long. Why do you always need everything to be okay? She asked. Why can't you just let me feel how I feel without trying to fix it? I'm not trying to fix anything. I just want to understand. Well, maybe I don't want to be understood. Her voice cracked. Mine followed. You shut me out, Lily. All the time. You disappear into yourself. and I'm just supposed to wait until you come back. I never asked you to wait. You didn't have to. She stopped pacing that we stared at each other, breathing hard. Then she whispered, maybe we're not good for each other. The words landed like a punch. What? I said. I don't want to hurt you. You're not hurting me. Yes, I am. Her voice trembled. You deserve someone who knows what they want. Someone steady. Someone who doesn't fall apart over every little thing. I want you. I said. She shook her head. You shouldn't. That was the last thing she said before she walked into her bedroom and closed the door. The next morning, she was gone. A note on the table read, I'm sorry. Don't look for me. I did look for her. I called. Texted. Showed up at her door. Called her friends. Nothing. She vanished like she had dissolved into the T. First, I thought she needed time. Then I thought she didn't love me anymore. Then I thought I had imagined everything. Weeks passed. Then months. Life went back to looking the way it did before her, gray, predictable, small. But nothing felt the same. The world felt too quiet without her noise. Then, 9 months later, something happened that changed everything. Something I never expected. That I was closing up the bike shop when my phone rang. Unknown number. Area code from Seattle. For a moment, I thought it was a scam call. I almost let it ring out. But something, instinct, fate, whatever you want to call it, made me answer, hello. A pause, a shaky breath. Mason, my heart stopped. Lily, another breath. Yeah, E. She sounded different. Softer. Like every word required effort. Where are you? I asked. It came out harsher than I intended. I'm in Seattle. I'm sorry for calling out of nowhere. Are you okay? My legs felt weak. I leaned against a work table. I don't know, she said. But I think I need to see you. Her voice cracked on the last word. That I didn't hesitate. I'll come tonight. No, she said quickly. Tomorrow. Please. I'm not ready yet. Okay. Tomorrow. We hung up, but I didn't move for several minutes. She was alive. She was okay. She wanted to see me. But something in her voice, fragile, almost hollow, told me she wasn't the same person who disappeared 9 months ago. That I barely slept. My mind was a carousel of questions. Why did she leave? Why now? What happened? By sunrise, I was on I-5, driving through a line of gray clouds that looked like they hadn't moved in years. Part of me was angry. Another part was terrified. And beneath all of that was something worse. Hope. I hated that hope the most. Seattle looked washed out under the midday rain. Metallic buildings, crowded streets, umbrellas bumping into each other like moving dots. She had given me the address to a small apartment complex near Capitol Hill. My heart was pounding by the time I climbed the stairs. That I knocked once. The door opened slowly. And there she was. Lily looked thinner than I remembered. Her hair was longer, darker at the roots, messy. Her eyes, her eyes, held a tiredness I had never seen in her before. But she still smiled, the small, trembling smile. Hi, she whispered as I stepped inside. Her apartment smelled like peppermint tea and old paint. Blank photo frames leaned against the wall. The place looked like she had moved in recently, or like she never planned to stay long. She wrapped her arms around herself and sat on the edge of the couch. Thanks for coming, she said as I sat across from her. My chest ached with all the things I wanted to say, but didn't know how to start. She beat me to it. I owe you an explanation. You owe me nothing, I said, but she shook her head. Edo. She took a deep breath. When I left Portland, I was in a bad place. Worse than I let on. I didn't know how to tell you that everything inside me felt like it was breaking. I didn't want you to watch me fall apart. My throat tightened. You should have told me. I know. She rubbed her eyes. But you looked at me like I was magic. And I was so afraid you'd stop. I wouldn't have. She gave a sad, knowing smile. You don't know that. Silence filled the room. Heavy, but not uncomfortable. Then she said something that made the world tilt beneath me. I was diagnosed with clinical depression 2 months after I left. It got really bad, Mason. I felt the breath leave my body. Lily, it wasn't your fault. She looked up. Tears clung to her lashes. I just didn't know how to exist. I was scared all the time. I kept pushing you away because you were the one thing I didn't want to lose. And that terrified me. I moved to sit beside her, not touching yet, just close. I should have stayed, she whispered. I should have fought harder. I replied. We sat like that for a long moment, close enough to feel each other's warmth, far enough to still feel the distance the months had carved between us. Then she looked at me. Do you still care about me? She asked, her voice barely audible. I never stopped. Her breath shook. I don't deserve that. Yes, you do. She covered her face with her hands. I'm trying to get better. I'm in therapy now. I'm on meds. Some days are okay. Some days are awful. But I'm trying. I know, I said. I can see it. She lowered her hands. Her eyes met mine, raw, honest, unprotected. I didn't call you because I want to get back together, she said. Not yet. I'm not stable enough. I called because you're the only person I've ever felt safe with. And I needed someone who remembers me as more than this. I placed my hand on hers. I remember all of you, I said. Not just the good parts. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Will you stay for a few days? She asked quietly. IT wasn't a romantic invitation. IT wasn't an apology. IT wasn't a promise. That IT was a plea from someone rebuilding herself piece by piece. Yes, I said. I'll stay. The next few days were slow, gentle, different. She showed me her favorite coffee shop around the corner, the one that served cinnamon mochas and played old vinyl records. She took me to the pier at sunset, where she insisted the air tasted like salt and hope. And we talked, really talked. The kind of conversations that peel a person open in layers. Not painful, just honest. Point one night, while we sat on our balcony wrapped in blankets, she said, I'm scared that you'll wait for me forever. I'm not waiting, I said. I'm just here. Why? Because I love you. She closed her eyes. I don't want to break you. You won't. You don't know that. Ido. She didn't answer, but she leaned her head on my shoulder, and I felt her relax, just a little. Enough to know there was still something between us, something fragile but real. On my 5th morning in Seattle, she asked me to walk with her to a place she wanted to show me. It was a small, bright photography studio. Windows everywhere. Plants hanging from the ceiling. A counter with a little bell. She pushed the door open and turned to me. I got a job here, she said. I blinked. Lily, that's amazing. She smiled, an actual, real smile that reached her eyes. It's not a magazine cover, she said. It's not glamorous, but steady. And they let me work flexible hours if I need mental health days. It feels like a new beginning. I wrapped my arms around her. She let herself sink into the hug. When she pulled away, she looked at me carefully. There's something else. My stomach flipped. Good or bad? She laughed softly. Good, I think. She reached in her pocket and pulled out a small envelope. My name was written on it. Open it, she said. Inside was a photograph that a candid shot. Me. Sitting in my bike shop, wiping grease off my hands, laughing at something out of frame. You took this? I asked. The day after I met you, she said. I didn't know why. I just felt like I needed to keep that moment. Why are you giving it to me? Because even when I vanished, even when I was at my worst, you were the one place in my mind that felt like home. She touched my hand just lightly. I want you to have it. My heart felt too full. Then she took a breath, steady, deliberate. And if you're willing, I'd like to try again. Slowly, carefully. No big promises. Just two people learning each other again. I stared at her. Her eyes, her voice, her bravery, her softness, her scars. I loved all of it. I want that, I said. I want you. However this looks. She exhaled, like she'd been holding that breath for months. And then she stepped closer, rested her forehead against mine, and whispered. Then let's begin again. Starting again wasn't like falling the first time. The first time it felt like gravity, effortless, natural, inevitable. The second time felt like learning to walk with an old injury. Possible, but careful. And we were careful. Not fragile, not tiptoeing around each other, but aware of the things we couldn't see before. The shadows, the fears, the parts of her that were quiet, and the parts of me that were too soft. That I stayed in Seattle 2 weeks. Long enough for habits to form. Breakfast at the bakery near her studio, evening walks through Volunteer Park, late-night tea on her balcony while she told me about her therapy sessions. Not the details, just the feelings. Sometimes she held my hand. Sometimes she didn't. Sometimes she hugged me at the end of the day. Sometimes she went straight to bed without a word, and all of it was fine because she was trying, and I was trying. And for the first time, trying felt like enough. Point one afternoon, she said, "You know what I realized? Falling apart doesn't make someone unworthy." "Who told you it did?" I asked. She shrugged. "The world." "Well," I said, "the world's wrong." Her smile was small, but real. A week before I had to return to Portland, she invited me to her studio after closing. I thought she wanted to take pictures. Instead, she pointed at the far wall, empty, blank, white. "I want to fill this," she said, "with moments that matter. Not perfect ones, not Instagram ones, just real ones." She placed a small box in my hands. Inside were photos. Hundreds, maybe more. Photos of us, not posed, not planned. Moments she captured without me knowing, me tying my shoelaces, me leaning over a broken bike, me with coffee foam on my lip, me watching her through a cafe window, me laughing at a joke she told, me looking tired or lost or happy, to me staring straight at her with the kind of softness I didn't know showed on my face. And in the middle of them all, one photo of her, just her, sitting in the morning sun, hugging her knees to her chest, eyes closed, peaceful. "Lily," I whispered, "I kept all these." She said, "Even when I left, even when everything was dark, they reminded me I wasn't alone, even when I felt like I was." She stepped closer, and I want to fill this wall with our beginning, our second beginning. My throat tightened. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I'm sure." So we spent hours pinning the photos to the wall. She didn't choose the perfect ones. She chose the ones where I looked confused or sleepy or mid-blink. She said they were honest. When the wall was full, she stepped back, looked at it with a soft pride, and whispered, "This is what hope looks like to me." I wrapped my arms around her from behind. She leaned into me, and in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't the same love we had before. This was deeper, quieter, more intentional, more human. That we didn't sleep. Not in the romantic way, in the talking until dawn way. That we lay on the floor of her apartment, staring at the ceiling, her head resting on my shoulder. "I'm scared," she murmured. "Of what?" "That you'll go back to Portland and decide this isn't worth the effort." "It is," I said. "You are." "And what if I have bad days again?" "You will," I said honestly. "But we'll figure them out together." "And what if I mess things up?" "You will," I said again. "And so will I." She laughed softly. "You're very reassuring." "I'm realistic." She played with the sleeve of my hoodie. "Stay?" she asked. "Not forever. Just tonight." I wasn't going anywhere. "Sometime around 4 in the morning," she whispered. "Mason, do you think some people meet twice? Once when they're not ready, and once when they are?" "Yeah," I said. "Edo." She closed her eyes, exhaled. "Good." Going back to Portland was harder than I expected. I felt like I was leaving a part of myself behind, a part I'd only just rediscovered. But she squeezed my hands at the train station and said, "This isn't the end. This is just a stretch of road." We talked daily, sometimes for hours, sometimes for minutes. Sometimes she sent me photos of her lunch or a dog she saw on the street. Sometimes she sent a single emoji, the yellow heart, which became our thing. When she had a good day, she'd say, "Today felt light." When she had a bad one, she'd say, "Today felt heavy." And I learned to understand her weight system. I visited every 2 weeks. She visited once a month. Each time we met, we were a little surer of each other, a little stronger, a little more in love. But then something happened that neither of us expected. Something that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening. I was closing the shop when my phone buzzed at a text from her. "Can you talk?" I called immediately. She answered with a shaky breath. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No," she whispered. "What happened?" "Mason." I relapsed. The room spun. "Talk to me, please." My therapist said it's normal, but it feels like I'm back where I started. "You're not," I said. "You're not alone this time." She didn't speak. I heard her crying quietly. "Lily, look at something around you," I said. "Tell me what you see." "My lamp," she sniffed. "What color is it?" "Yellow." "Okay. What else?" She paused. "Your photo." My heart clenched. "Which one?" "The one where you're smiling. The one on my nightstand." "That's good," I said. "Keep looking at it." She cried harder, not from pain, I think, but from relief. And then she whispered, I'm scared you'll leave. I'm scared you'll get tired of this. I'm here, I said. I'm not leaving. You say that now. I'll say it every day. Mason. Yes. Can you come tomorrow? Yes, I said without hesitation. First thing in the morning. She exhaled. Okay. I love you, I said softly. She didn't answer with words. She just whispered, stay on the phone until I fall asleep? Always. And I did. For almost an hour, listening to her breathing slow, soften, settle. When she finally slept, I whispered into the quiet, I'm not giving up on you. Not ever. But I didn't know then that the real test was still ahead, that a test neither of us saw coming, to the test that would lead to the unexpected, beautiful ending our story was moving toward. I caught the first morning train. The sun was barely up, painting the sky a washed-out pink as I rode north, my knee bouncing the entire time. I kept replaying her voice, small, scared, trembling, and every instinct in me screamed to get to her faster. When I reached her apartment, she opened the door before I knocked. She looked exhausted, her eyes swollen from crying, hair tied back in a messy knot. But when she saw me, her shoulders dropped like she'd been holding up a ceiling alone, and suddenly didn't have that. I didn't say anything, that I just pulled her into my arms. She held onto me with both fists twisted in my jacket, like letting go would make the world tilt again. Thank you for coming, she whispered into my chest. Thank you for calling. I said that we stayed like that for a long time. Her breathing shaky at first, then steadier, then slow. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her eyes and said, I feel stupid. You're human, I said. That's the opposite of stupid. She gave a watery smile. You're too good at this. I've had a lot of practice, I teased gently. You give me plenty of material. She hit my shoulder lightly. Jerk. There she is, I said, and for the first time in 24 hours, she laughed, quiet but real. Over breakfast, cereal and slices of an apple she didn't finish, she looked nervous, fidgeting with her spoon, not meeting my eyes. What is it? I asked. I want to ask you something, but I'm afraid it's too much. Ask. She drew in a breath. Would you want to move here? To Seattle? I froze. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wanted to so badly it scared me. Lily, you don't have to decide right now, she rushed. And I don't mean move in with me. I mean just be in the same city. I know it's huge and selfish, and I shouldn't stop, I said softly. She bit her lip. I want to say yes, I said. I really do, but I have to think. Not because of you, because it's a big step. Her eyes didn't fall. She just nodded. I understand, she said quietly. Take your time. And I knew she meant it, that we went for a long walk that afternoon. Through Capitol Hill's narrow streets, past bookstores and record shops, past a mural of a giant hummingbird. She took photos with her old film camera, telling me she liked the way the world looked grainier. She seemed lighter, tired, but herself. But on the way back, something shifted. We were crossing the street when I felt her hand slip from mine. I turned. She had stopped walking. Her breathing was sharp, uneven, her eyes wide. That I rushed to her. Hey, look at me. Her hand shook violently. Mason, I can't breathe. Panic attack, a big one. Okay, I said calmly, even though my pulse was sprinting. It's okay. I've got you. I guided her to the sidewalk, kneeling in front of her. Cars hummed in the distance, but the world felt eerily quiet. Can you hear me? I asked. She nodded barely. Good. Put your hand on my chest. She did, her fingers trembling against my heart. Match my breathing, I said. Slow in, slow out. At first she couldn't, but then, gradually, her breath synced with mine. Still shaky, but fuller, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. You have nothing to be sorry for. I hate this. I hate that you have to deal with me like this. I don't deal with you, I said. I love you. She closed her eyes, and then she said something she had never said before. I'm tired of surviving. I want to live. It hit me like a breaking wave that I cupped her face gently. You will, I said. We will. Together. She opened her eyes, surprised. Together? Yes. Together. She blinked. Are you saying I'm moving here? I said. Seattle. You and me. We'll take it slow. Separate apartments. No pressure. But I want to build something here. With you. Her breath hitched, not from panic this time, but from something deeper. Mason, yeah? She grabbed my jacket and kissed me. Hard, desperate, grateful, afraid, relieved all at once. A kiss that tasted like tears and cinnamon from the coffee she'd finished earlier. When she pulled back, she whispered against my lips, "I love you more than I know how to say." "You just did," I murmured. The next month was chaos that I quit the bike shop. Found a small studio apartment 10 blocks from hers. Moved my life in 6 cardboard boxes on a rainy Tuesday. She showed up with a lamp, so your place doesn't look like a cave, a plant, you better not kill it, and a keychain shaped like a tiny camera. "I want you to have something of me on your keys," she said. That I handed her a key to my apartment in return. "Just for emergencies," I said. She smiled. "I know, but it still feels nice." Our relationship wasn't suddenly perfect. Her bad days still came to why impatience still showed sometimes. We fought, we apologized, we learned. But little by little, our lives threaded together again. Some nights she'd cook dinner at my place. Some mornings I'd bring her coffee. Some evenings we'd sit on her balcony watching the sky fade to lavender. And every time she reached for my hand, whether she was happy, scared, sad, or somewhere in between, I held it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Because it was that IT happened on a spring morning, she told me she wanted to show me something at her studio. I arrived to find the lights off, the windows covered with sheets, the whole room dim and quiet. "What's going on?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she took my hand and guided me to the far wall. The photo wall. Our wall, but now it stretched across the whole room. Hundreds, maybe thousands of photos of us walking, to us laughing, to us arguing, to us fixing our relationship one thread at a time, to us healing, to us living, to us choosing each other again and again. And in the very center of the wall was a single photo. Me, holding her camera in one hand, and her in the other, forehead pressed to hers. Both of us smiling like the world had finally stopped spinning. Below it, handwritten, "Where we end up." I felt my throat close. "Lily," she turned to me, eyes bright. "I used to think love had to be perfect," she said. "I used to think I had to be perfect. But then you stayed. And you taught me that love doesn't need perfection. It needs presence and patience and choice." She took my hands. "I choose you," she whispered. "Every day, even on the heavy days, even on the quiet days, even on the ones that scare me. I choose you." I swallowed hard. "And I choose you," I said. She reached in her pocket, pulled out something small, and placed it in my palm. KAYT her apartment. "No pressure," she said softly. "Not today. Not tomorrow. Not even next month. But someday, whenever you're ready. I want us to share a home." My heart felt too full for my ribs that I cupped her face and kissed her gently. Slow, deep, steady, the kind of kiss that felt like planting roots. When we pulled apart, I whispered, "I'm ready when you are." She smiled the warmest smile I'd ever seen on her face. Then, she said, I guess this is where we end up." And for the first time in a long time, her eyes didn't look tired or scared or searching. They looked like home.